The tale of the Mongol invasions begins not in grand palaces or bustling cities, but on the silent grasslands of Mongolia. Here, children learned to ride before they could walk, and the bow became an extension of their very arms. From this harsh land came warriors unlike any the world had ever seen. Among them rose a man named Temujin, later remembered as Genghis Khan. He was not born a king but forged his destiny through hardship, betrayal, and endless battles. With cold eyes and iron resolve, he united warring tribes under one banner, promising them the world if they followed. The Mongols did not march like ordinary armies. They moved like a storm, silent until the first strike, then overwhelming in fury. Their horses carried them across impossible distances, and their arrows fell like rain upon terrified enemies. To face them was to face shadows on the horizon that grew into thunder. By the time the enemy realized the danger, the Mongols were already upon them, swift as lightning, merciless as fire. When northern China stood against them, the Jin dynasty believed its great walls would hold. But walls burn, gates break, and courage melts when faced with fire and steel. The Mongols battered their defenses, and soon the mighty cities crumbled into smoke. Stories of horror ran faster than the riders themselves. Entire towns surrendered at the mere rumor of their coming, laying down arms to escape certain destruction. Fear became the sharpest weapon in the Mongol arsenal. Those who resisted learned the cost. Flames swallowed their homes, their people scattered or slain, and the memory of defiance was erased beneath ash. To stand against the Mongols was to gamble with survival, and most lost. Once China had bent, the gaze of Genghis turned westward, toward the glittering riches of Central Asia. Across deserts and mountains, the riders swept like a tide no wall could stop. The cities of Samarkand and Bukhara fell, their treasures stripped, their proud people chained or cut down. Their greatness, once whispered across the Silk Road, was reduced to silence under Mongol hooves. Even mighty Persia could not escape. The Khwarezmian Shah defied the horsemen of the steppe, and for that defiance, his empire was ground into dust. Palaces burned, markets collapsed, and rivers ran red. The Mongols were not just conquerors of land, they were architects of fear. Survivors were sent ahead, broken and terrified, to tell of the storm approaching. Wherever they went, panic followed. From icy rivers to scorching deserts, no obstacle slowed them. Armies that had believed themselves invincible were shattered in days. The Mongols carried the wind of destiny, and none could block its path. When Genghis Khan died in 1227, many thought the storm would pass. Instead, it grew fiercer. His heirs carried his vision beyond imagination, unleashing fire across Europe itself. Knights in heavy armor, who once laughed at tales of steppe riders, were soon pierced by arrows that found every gap in their steel. The old ways of war could not match the speed and cunning of this new power. At Liegnitz in Poland, a coalition of proud European warriors was crushed in hours. Where once banners of defiance had flown, only smoke and silence remained. In Hungary, the Great Plains became a graveyard. The riverbanks of Mohi overflowed with the fallen, and the earth drank deeply of blood. The Mongols had shown Europe the terror that had already swept Asia. And yet, at the height of their advance, the invasion halted. The death of Ögedei Khan forced the warriors to retreat, to return home and choose a new ruler. Europe was spared not by strength, but by the turning of fate. Even divided, the Mongol Empire cast a long shadow. In Russia, the Golden Horde bent princes to their knees, demanding tribute with the certainty of death for refusal. For centuries, the echo of Mongol hooves haunted those frozen lands. In Persia, the Ilkhanate mingled destruction with creation. Books were burned, cities erased, yet ideas flowed across borders as cultures collided under Mongol rule. Far to the east, Kublai Khan, grandson of Genghis, seized China and declared himself emperor of the Wen dynasty. In his court, Mongol warriors and Chinese scholars sat side by side, uneasy but bound by the weight of empire. His fleets dared even the seas, sailing to conquer Japan. But there, nature itself rose against them. Typhoons, called divine winds, tore apart the ships and sent the invincible warriors to the depths of the ocean. Though the empire fractured, its influence stretched farther than its armies. The Silk Road thrived under their watch, carrying not only silk and spices, but stories, inventions, and even plagues. The Black Death, that shadow which would consume Europe, traveled along Mongol routes. In their wake came not just wealth, but death, reshaping the fate of continents. In time, the vast empire broke apart. Brothers turned against brothers, Khanates drifted into rivalries, and the once united storm faded into scattered winds. The fire that once terrified the world dimmed into history. Yet the Mongols left behind more than ruins. They left behind legends, lessons, and a reminder of how quickly the world can be reshaped by those bold enough to reach for it. The horsemen of the steppe may be gone, but their shadow still lingers in the stories of our past.